Hello, and I am just about to go on another road trip, and I thought I would sort of show you what I take when I go. I sort of try and travel as light as possible, really, because you're sort of always jumping in and out of different cars. Supercars have no space in them, so I've sort of boiled it down to my essentials of what I need. When I go and what I take. So to start off with, I have my douche bag. The reason I have one of these, I kind of like the bag really. It's just a sort of open space to put all your stuff in, and I met Yoon on Gumball a few times and I kind of like this stuff. But, so in here I have, if I just sort of take out some stuff, now that I've started filming, I've got some GoPros on some suction mounts for different angles and stuff. I'll talk about that a bit later. Just take this bit out. And then, under here somewhere, I have this insert. Now, if I take that out, this is by F-Stop, and you can basically buy these and they sort of work with their bags, or you can put them in anything. Or you can put them in whatever bag you like. And I quite like that you can have a sort of camera insert like this that really looks after your gear, but at the same time you can put it in a bag that doesn't look like a camera bag, so you're sort of a bit of a security thing, and you don't have to look. Camera bags generally look a bit rubbish. But anyway, so we have a little problem here because I'm actually filming with one of my cameras, but I'll see what's in here. Let's get rid of these GoPros and stuff. Shut them down there. So camera wise, I take my Canon 5D Mark III. I've had this for 2 years now, something like that. And before that I had a 7D, which I still have, but I'm getting rid of that soon. And the step up to full frame it's big. It's good. Like the difference between this and the 7D for me was massive. Although at the same time I did change some lenses, so I can't 100% account for that. But brilliant camera, love it. When the next one comes out, I'd like one. What else do I have in here? I have the other camera I use is, I have an A7R2, which I got about just the beginning of the year, January, before my last trip away, last road rally anyway. And I've been shooting with that quite a lot, and actually this is what it's being filmed with now, so I can't really show it to you. But Sony A7R2, mirrorless camera, you can use the Canon lenses. So I had the A7S before, and that, they said it worked with Canon lenses, but basically you couldn't focus at all, just didn't work. You need one of these things. It's a little mount thing that changes the Sony E mount, which is what they're called, to the Canon EF mount, the big Canon ones. So you just slap that on and it works. So with the A7R2, the focusing works a ton better. It's actually usable. And yeah, I used to take my 7D as well, but I took the A7R2 on my last trip, and I've been shooting with that a lot, and that camera is brilliant. The only problem I have with it is, for sort of shooting on the fly stuff, is because it's 50 megapixels or 45 or something like that. The file size is so huge, and the write speed to the card inside isn't very fast, so you can only, I tested it the other day, and your burst speed, you can only sort of take photos for about, if you have everything on uncompressed, everything raw, about 3.5 seconds before it hits the buffer, and then it takes ages to write. That goes up to about 6 if you use the compressed raw file, which is just not very long. If you're sort of leaning out of a car and you go, or a couple of pictures, then you want to take another lot, you hit the buffer, and that annoyed me a lot. So I've been playing around recently with the different settings, and maybe even shoot JPEG with that camera a little bit on the road. But the files out of that for normal stuff are amazing. You can blow them up massive, the detail, brilliant. So that would normally be in here. This is the adapter. Lens wise, so there's my 5D, put that down there. Lens blur, normally have those running around somewhere. Get rid of dust. This is just a fluffy thing. Since I've been filming, I have a Rode video micro mic that I put on top of the Sony, and that seems to be doing quite well with that. The autofocus with a Sony lens on the Sony is quite good, much better than the Canon ones. And the little Rode video micro seems to work quite well. Pretty happy with it. You don't have to have a battery in it, so you don't have to worry about that running out. It's just powered by the camera. And then this is if you're a little dead cat, if it's windy, down there. So in here, I have 70-200 f2.8. 2.8 all the way through the lens. So when you zoom in, it doesn't get darker, which you might get on some of the cheaper ones. This lens is amazing. I've had it for 4 years or something like that. Brilliant. One of my favourite lenses. Bit big though, heavy. Put that there. Other lens I use all the time. 24-70. 24-70, 2.8 again. Really nice depth of field. Just great lens. My little red bit that says it's an L lens, which kind of signifies the expensive Canon lenses, came off after not very long of using it, but I don't really care, and I prefer it not to have it on, because you know, I know what it is. I don't need anyone else to know what it is. So actually, with those two lenses, you can pretty much cover everything. Job done. If I'm shooting something that's really quite, like the start of a rally, you're kind of going like, trying to take lots of pictures at once. I might use two cameras, one of those on each, basically. I bought this recently, this lens. This is the 16-35 f4. And I used to use a fisheye a little bit, just to get those really kind of wide shots. Don't want to do it all the time, but just adds a little bit of width. So I try and keep something wide. I used to use this, which is a Sigma 10mm 2.8 fisheye. Great for a little bit, but you can't. Some people love fisheye shots. I think photographers kind of hate them a little bit too much, but they're good for adding that effect or getting super wide, and you can now correct them a little bit with software so they don't look so bowl-like. But yeah, so I now take this when I go rather than this. So those three. What else do we have? Speedlight. The only time I use this now is if I'm sort of shooting indoors or got to shoot some people. Sometimes you got to do sort of just generic red carpet stuff like that. You need a flash, otherwise your shutter speed just gets too long and you can't really do it. So I just have one of those in the bag. It doesn't get used that much now, but I've got it for when I need it. And then what else have we got? Here we have a 1.4 extender. Now this will go on my 70-200, and it just clips on. You get them like this. And it times the 70-200 by 1.4, basically extends it and gives you that little bit of extra reach. I don't use that often. I don't often take it on road trips actually, but if I'm going to a track or something like that and I know I want a bit of extra reach, or I've just got a bit more space, I'll take one of them. Just makes that go a bit further. I don't think it fits on the wider ones actually. Put that back in that bag. Oh. Whatever, do that later. Some things I've learnt from, or not sort of got used to. When my lenses are in the bag in here, sometimes they have lens covers on, sometimes they don't. If I'm just in a hurry, I don't have them on. But because this is all quite soft, I'm not worried about them getting scratched, so they just kind of go back in there, job done. This is 85 1.8. It's an alright lens. You get a really nice background blur with this. It's nice, but 85mm is sort of like that middle sort of long. Quite good for sort of portraity headshot type stuff. Get a really nice background, looks great. At 1.8, which lets in quite a lot of light, you get a little bit of chromatic aberration, which is those sort of purple and green lines around stuff. It's not too bad, and if you sort of put it down to like 2.2 or something, that's much better. But that's great. Actually, relatively cheap lens. I think they're about 250, 300 pounds, 350, 300, something like that. I would love to have the 1.2, but this is sort of does the job. I have that in. That goes in there sometimes. And then my 50mm, I've got the 1.4. I used to have the 1.8. This is just sort of a great little lens. Again, not very expensive. Going down to 1.4, if you've got to shoot inside somewhere and it's a little bit dark, so you have to shoot a wedding or something like that, or something or me, sometimes doing clubs or something like that, or it's just night time. 1.4 lets you shoot much cleaner photos without having to use flash. They're great to have. If I've got space, I'll put the 85 and the 1.4 in, because I just kind of like them. 85 I use quite a lot for detail shots now. Looks good. What else? I've got some triggers. I'll talk about that later. Yeah, so that's all that stuff. In my bag I have, just in the side, what else do I have? I have a bunch of, oh, I totally didn't know they did that. These have just clicked together without me ever knowing they did that. But spare AA batteries, rechargeable. I've got tons of batteries for the A7R2 that eats batteries. The loads of batteries for the 5D. These last ages. Never really have a problem with them running out, but you know, gotta have them. Little IR remote. I haven't actually used that yet. What else do we have in here? Allen keys. These sort of get chucked in. I should actually I only really need one of them. Occasionally my tripod head, the little connector gets loose. Need that. Got some mics in there, just a little lapel mic. There's some things if you're in cars that I always take now when I'm on the road, because it just make your life a little bit easier when someone's not paying much attention. Things like a little USB. This is 2.4 amps on both sides. You just put it in your USB plug in the car. No, not USB. It's a USB plug. You put it in the 12 volt thing. Cigarette lighter. And then you can charge your phone. So I always bring loads of cables, things like this. Just ways of charging stuff in the car. And aux cables, stuff like that. Because if you're in a car with people and you can provide them with music, they like you. So that's always useful. That's all that's in there. Everything else goes back in there. Here we have Cam Ranger. I found out about this from Oscar Back, actually. Great photographer. Check him out. And this, I don't actually use this much anymore, but for the Canon, you can plug this in and it creates a little wireless hotspot. You plug it in via USB cable and then into the side. And what that lets you do is do a bunch of remote shooting stuff. So you can control it from your phone. You can trigger the camera when it's somewhere else. It's very useful. I used to use that a lot when I was doing multiple exposures. So I'll sort of walk around a car with a light going like, and then stitch them all together. And I'll be there with my phone just firing it rather than worrying about it. That's really good. And it used to be the method that I used to get pictures, still do sometimes actually, pictures from my camera to my phone on the road straight away so I can upload them. It's amazing that Canon doesn't put this in their pro cameras straight away. It's in all the consumer ones, but not the pros. But now I shoot a lot with the Sony. The Sony has an app and does basically everything that I used to do with this, the Sony just has built into the camera. Canon sort it out. I think they do on their new ones. What else do we have? This little bag here. I have some filters. The only filters I use, really, are circular polarizing filters. I have them on all my lenses. They kind of live on them. Here we go. Helps with reflections in cars. Cars just look better, generally, with circular polarizing filter, and you sort of rotate that a little bit. Those live on all my lenses. And I don't use UV filters on my lenses because I don't really see the point in putting another bit of glass over the top of your expensive glass that's not quite as expensive as your expensive glass. To sort of, it just, I don't see the point in doing that. Some people say protect it. If you've got a lens hood on, job done, don't need that. These are ND filters. Now, won't be able to see through that. That is really quite dark. And what these are for, I've got two of them, and then these little step down rings, which mean you can have, basically all these lenses have a different size filter on them. They're like different size, and you can get these little rings that you screw on that let you use bigger filters on smaller lenses. So here we have, this is a 3-stop. It's like, I don't know whether you can see through that. Maybe not. This is, I can see through. This is 10. I can't see through that. And what you do is you put that on the end over your lens, and it means the camera can't really see, so it has to let through a lot more light, and you get a much longer exposure. Now, there's sort of creative things you could do with that. Say you've got water in your shot, like a lake or something, and if you just take a picture, the water's all, it's like stuck, frozen in motion, and it's just, you can see all the ripples, you can see everything. Put one of these on and you make it really long. The 10-stop one is quite, if it's sort of midday-ish or whatever. The exposure's long and it goes that glassy effect, so you get those really glassy landscape shots. They're good. They live in there. Remote. This is just a little Yongnuo one. I think the Canon one was something like £90. This was about 10. I leave the rechargeable batteries. I just swap them the wrong way around, put them back in, and this you can sort of set to do intervals. So take a photo. Say you want to do a time lapse, you could take a photo every 10 seconds for 500 photos, and then you could merge them all together. Or say you don't want to touch camera, press that and do it. And I also use it, the interval feature, for, yet again, now I've got the phone apps, not so much, but I used to use this. It's quite a quick way of doing it. Plug it in, tell it to take a photo every 5 seconds, and I've got all my flash stuff set up, and this will take a picture, and I can then walk around, and every 5 seconds it'll fire another picture, so I don't have to have someone at the camera pressing it or touching it or anything. So that's a good way of doing that. Down here, now, this is another addition. Let's get rid of these bits. These are remotes for this, basically, from the flash, so I don't have to have wires or anything. They're quite good. In here, I have another little f-stop bag. And in my f-stop bag, I have an Elinchrom Quadra, which is a light, basically. And it comes with these battery packs. I have the lithium ion ones, which are a little bit lighter, or quite a bit lighter, and last a bit longer. And they click together like that. And you attach this cable to here, which I need to get a new cap because it's broken. But basically, it has this. Attach that to that, cable goes in, and then when you've turned it on, fires. And it's much more powerful, like significantly more powerful than a little strobe that you might have. Yeah, like my little Canon strobe. This just is, if you start getting into your lighting stuff, this you can sort of block out lights. You sort of basically, you crank down what the camera would see until it's very dark, and then this is bright enough that it will light over the top. So I use this for all the funky dark pictures of cars, sort of moody with funky lighting, when you want to control the lighting rather than just use what you've got there, sort of add, make the picture your own, really. So that goes in there. It's pretty portable, and that's my little bag for it. So I now take this because it just gives me that extra element. You can create some really funky stuff that you just can't do with a strobe. That goes in there. And then, finally, this bag. It's just a softbox bag. In here lives my tripod. I have a Manfrotto 55CX Pro 3. I'm just reading it because that's what the camera's on right now. That lives in here. And I have a softbox, just a rectangular softbox that I take around with me. And then the other thing, which is really useful, and I use a lot, is my monopod. Now, I either put the softbox, and I have a little attachment somewhere. Yeah, it's attached there. Goes on here, and the softbox goes on the end, and then you can hold it with the softbox on and direct someone else to move it around. Or I put my camera on the end, make this long, or it goes down one more, and then lift it up, and you can get different angles and things that you wouldn't otherwise get. And I like that. I like that a lot. And the Sony has, now I do this with the Sony, and the Sony can live preview what's on the screen. And actually, I don't know whether you can see now. I've got that app open, and it's showing this now. But so you can get that up, and then you can just press the button, and it'll take a shot, and you know what you're seeing. Before with the Canon, I kind of had to put a little timer on, put it up, guess, hope it was right. This is much better. So that goes in there, and that is it. That is everything. Yeah, actually, something. Last bit. If I'm on a road trip, this is really something I kind of want to do, but I haven't actually done. If I don't have space to have my bag by my foot, which you never do, it's not that comfy, I want something like this. So I have a smaller one of these, and if I can fit it in, I'm going to bring it this time when I go on the next trip, to put by my feet, so that when you're not using a camera or a lens or something like that, you can just put it in one of these by your feet. Because say you're in a 458 Speciale or something like that, the floor is completely stripped out. It's basically solid, and the Ferraris have this like sharp-edged sort of diamond stuff on the floor. And if you have a lens rolling around on that, it does quite a lot of damage in quite a small amount of time, and it's not very nice. But yeah, so that will help. I normally try and put like a jumper down or something like that. Yeah, there we go. That's my stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you like the videos. I'll try and keep them up. Do some more interesting things.